UFC 312 just ended, and I honestly have mixed reviews. It was a decent card. We had a couple of back and forth battles, but a whole bunch of decisions, and the few finishes we got ended almost immediately. I just finished watching UFC 312, and I'm going to recap the entire event. But before we talk about the fights, let's talk about the bets. And we had a spectacular night. We are up huge money. We couldn't miss. Except that's not true. Actually, we did not have a great night. If you look at every single bet put on the board for premium between myself, Jacob, and BetSam, we lost $3.44 and the ROI was 0%. If you look at me specifically, I had a pretty bad night. This might be the worst betting night I personally have ever had. And it all comes down to one Frenchman who decided not to fight. And that's incredibly frustrating. My most confident pick on this entire card was Kevin Jousset. He was my most confident pick on the whole card. And he went out there and absolutely laid an egg. I'll talk about that fight in a little more detail. Where I am mad at myself is I was double exposed to Kevin Jousset. I had a parlay with him early on. Then when I had to sit down and do a safety parlay, I looked at the slate and it's like, I don't know who I can fully trust. At that point in time, Quillan was way too big of a favorite to double down on. I already had Aleksandre. Didn't want to double down on him. Dricus was somebody I was considering, but all the Strickland, no, I'm coming here I'm going to fight to the death. That all ended up being bullshit, but keep in mind, we now have hindsight. So ultimately, I said the over on the co-main event was clean, and I'd be dumb if I didn't go with my most confident pick, which was Kevin. So that sucks. It busted the safety parlay. If the safety parlay hit, I'm up money. It's literally, that is the difference between being up and getting hate from a bunch of people that want to hate for no reason. Literally, Kevin freaking French Jousset is the difference because the safety parlay was plus money. Jakey Boy had a mixed bag. Jakey Boy had a couple of really good bets on the board. Obviously, the underdog lock of the week didn't work out with Francisco Prado. We'll talk about that in a little more detail. But he had some really good bets. His biggest issue was also Kevin Jousset. If Kevin Jousset wins, that's a 1.5 unit bet for him. All of a sudden, he's up money if Kevin Jousset wins. BetSam, again, had a really good weekend. If you are a premium member, you see BetSam on there. If you've been a premium member for a few years, he's obviously a new addition. If you're brand new, then good for you because all you've seen is BetSam, and he's done quite well. He had 8 units out the door. He brought back more than 10, but it really came down to 2 huge bets for him. He had Weili, and then he had a parlay with Gabriel Santos and Taliesin to share. He's got his own, the slam of the week and all that nonsense. That actually all hit. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but overall, if you looked at every single bet, mediocre night. If you zeroed in on just me, you didn't have a great night. If you zeroed in on just Jakey Boy, middle of the road as well. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes, unfortunately. Nobody can hit 100%. We're no different. I am going to rage when we get to this Kevin Jousset pick. Just so you know, when we start breaking down that fight, I'm going to rage. Because I blame him. It's one thing if you're not the better fighter. It's another thing if you go out there. You know what? I'll save it. There were some highlights, though. DraftKings ownership, again, the best in the world. And that is why I do like to focus on some of the positivity. I know a lot of you love to wallow in sorrow, and you want to see misery. You guys are bloodthirsty for misery. Something wasn't perfect. He better sit his fat ass in that chair and tell me about it. If he sits there and says anything positive, I am going to cry in my mother's basement. That's the general vibe. But I'm going to talk about some positive things. The DraftKings ownership projections, again, were absolutely spectacular. Listen, our premium membership's $10. It's $10. It's $10. You know, insignificant amount of money that it's $10. And not only is it $10, it quite literally has anything you could ever want or need for a fight. And obviously the bets will go up and down with the performances of the fighters. What doesn't go up and down, though, are the tools and the insight and that data. The DraftKings ownership projections, you want to buy these from a DFS company, they're going to charge you $100 per sport. Ours is included in the $10 membership. We quite literally have the best in the world. So, yeah, I'm going to brag about that every single week. This is also a big week for us with the Fight Simulator. We released a giant tool that another company sells for $300 a month. We include that in everything that we do. Huge week for the Fight Simulator. So I'm curious to see. I'm filming this obviously at 1 o'clock in the morning right after the fights. So I'm curious to see what comes back here. Let's talk about the actual fights. But before we do that, let's look at the fights coming up. We are in the throes of a 16 event stretch. Next week is Jared Cannonier and Gregory Rodriguez at UFC Vegas 102. Then we have 2 fight nights, and then we have UFC 313. That's the Alex Pereira Ankalaev fight card. So if you're not a premium member and you become one, you get a full month. You get 4 events worth of access. So that'll get you all the way out to UFC 313. And if you're not a premium member, you want to become one, the UFC Vegas 102 picks and bets are up now at WeWantPicks.com. Everything we do is available in the app. Let's go ahead and break down these fights. Right off the rip, felt like it was going to be a great card. Salkilld came out here, knocked out Anshul Jubli in, 16 seconds. 19 seconds. And I was like, all right, well, we'll take it. That was fun. The problem is, it was 19 seconds. You actually don't get a lot of a joy out of that. I was okay with it because I parlayed Salkilld a couple of weeks ago or a week and a half ago, whatever it was, before his line got outrageous. What did kind of stink? So I picked Salkilld, I parlayed Salkilld, then his line took off, so the value kind of disappeared, but it is what it is, right? That's why we bet as early as we do. I felt bad for Anshul Jubli because that might have been an early stoppage. He got blasted with an overhand. It dropped him, very clearly dropped him, but he was with it. He was conscious. He grabbed the leg, immediately started to try to work. And the ref, that ref couldn't wait. Oh, we're done. I don't know if anything would have changed. I mean, we're talking about a minus 700 favorite, blasted a dude, the dude dropped, a dude who was just finishing his last fight. So I'm not going to scream from the rooftops, absolute robbery and all that nonsense. It does suck, though, if you're Anshul and you put in all that time and that effort and the outcome's a bit questionable. I err on the side of Herb Dean, which is like, let him die, and then I'll stop it after that. But sucks for Anshul. He was plagued with injuries, was the healthiest he's ever been in this camp, all those things, and then bang, one punch, done, gone. It did drop him. He was in a bad way. So in that regard, you can't get mad at the referee when his job is literally to keep you safe and make sure you don't get permanent brain damage. And that took us to the first leg of the safety parlay. Second leg sailed. This leg failed. And it has to do with Kevin Jousset. Before I absolute railroad this dork loser who refuses to fight, let's praise Jonathan Micallef for a second. So Jonathan Micallef came in here, supposed to be a grappler. And he came in here and he struck. And he threw a ton of kicks. He threw everything with power. He moved forward. He ate some big shots. But he kept moving forward, kept trying to make things work. So Jonathan Micallef fought like a man. UFC debut, moved forward, fought like a man as a 2-1 underdog. Kevin Jousset, on the other hand, did not. And here's a little rant for you. And I'll try to be as reasonable as possible. And before Dork 1 or Dork 2 or whoever it is comments, tell me you bet on the fight without telling me, or comments, how could you ever put Kevin Jousset? Dude, I don't want that. The hindsight geniuses are the worst. We all went into, the collective universe went into this fight with Kevin Jousset being a pretty straightforward pick. The collective. Okay, that's why the line was what it was. The collective. If you went to Tapology and looked at the votes, the collective was on the Kevin Jousset side. And that's because he's a big dude. He's got good power. He's got decent striking. He's a high-level judo practitioner. And everything we knew about Jonathan Micallef was that he was going to come forward and grapple. And he didn't grapple. He struck, and he didn't need to grapple. So one thing that I'll mention quickly before railroading Kevin is betting on fights is interesting. And I was explaining this to a couple people that were over that aren't diehard fight fans. Because Jonathan Micallef, for example, he's 8-1, which means he has 9 professional fights. This is his job, right? Fist fighting is their job. It's their literal job. We all wake up. This YouTube is not my job. I have a real job. And I wake up and I do my real job. And if I suck at my real job, I lose my real job. But I've been doing my real job for a very long time. So there's a bar there, right? Everybody at my company knows what I do, what I don't do, what I do well. There's a bar. There's years and years and years of Angelo data to go off of. When we look at somebody like Jonathan Micallef, who has only done his job 9 times ever. He has 9 fights. He has only done his job 9 times ever. We don't have a ton to go off of, especially in a job like this where they're rapidly improving. So when he came out and wasn't wrestling, and we didn't get to see the judo of Kevin, a bit surprising. My biggest issue with Kevin in this fight is not that he lost, because people lose. Unless you're Khabib and you retire 5 years before you should, you're going to lose. So people lose, and that's not the biggest issue here. The biggest issue is more that Kevin didn't do anything to win. That is my problem. Again, this is his literal job. And he showed up to work today and didn't do anything. He didn't do anything. But unlike me and you and everybody else that has a normal job, we could do nothing on a Wednesday and show up on a Thursday, work a little extra hard, and everything's okay. That's not how it works in fist fighting, Kevin. Because now you're 0-2 and the whole world is like, cut this bum. Because the other problem is, part of your job is to win fights. The other part is to be entertaining. You didn't do either one of those things, did you? I just don't understand how a young, athletic guy that has high-level judo achievements, that puts the time, he obviously trains, he puts the time in, he's not doing nothing. I just don't understand how somebody like that can give up the first round, sit on the stool in the corner, come back out in the second round, do exactly the same shit, lose that round, go back to the corner, sit on the stool, go into the third round, and again do exactly the same shit. Zero adjustments were made. Zero sense of urgency. Zero anything. The guy was just a random kicking contest, was on the wrong side of most power punches, didn't seem to care. Not a care in the world. And I will never understand that. A, what are your coaches doing? And I understand the coaches can't fight for you, but what are they saying in the corner? And I do hate this about ESPN Plus. We pay for ESPN Plus. It's not free. And we still don't get to see the walkouts or the corners because it's a commercial. So that sucks. I would love to know what his corner was saying. Maybe they had the same frustration I have, right? Maybe it was Eric Nixick in the main event. We'll talk about that. Or maybe they're like, good job, Kevin. Just a touch more. I will never understand somebody whose entire job, they walk around their town. I'm the UFC fighter. That's his whole identity. And I get it. You work that hard to get there. I get it being your identity. But for that to be your identity, to be who you are as a person, to be your whole personality, and to go out there and do fuck all, I will never understand it. And that is what pissed me off. If Kevin Jousset came out here, like Tatiana Suarez got her ass kicked in the co-main event. She went out as tough as she could. She kept moving forward, kept trying to do things. Her skill set is limited, so she just was diving at legs. Fine, but she didn't quit. And not that Kevin Jousset quit, but he did nothing. It's the same thing. I'm done with it. Let's move on. And I was screwed no matter what with the safety parlay. Because as I said, Kevin was one of my most confident picks. It was either going to be Kevin and Topuria. But I didn't want to do Kevin and Topuria because that bet was already on the slate. So I didn't want to double up on that. So I did Kevin and the over and the co. And the other worst part is, I promise my mood will shift after this. I'm out. I'm out with my family. We're out with friends. We're eating dinner. It's a beautiful Saturday. I'm excited for the fights. I'm excited to win some bets for you guys. And then this fucking loser does nothing. He does nothing. And it tanked my mood. Like literally people were like, dude, what's your problem? It's like, what's my problem? Fucking 30,000 people are about to bitch at me in a fucking Discord is my problem. That's my problem right now. Kevin Jousset's my problem. And if he watches this and he's got a problem with it, 1,000% sure. 1,000% sure I'd toss your little ass around a grappling room. Not even a fucking 1,000% sure. Positive news. We moved right from that travesty to what was probably fight of the night. I record these right after the card. So I don't have the knowledge of what fight of the night bonuses were, any other incidental information. Hopefully this is a fight of the night or there were some bonuses here because this was a great fight. This was a great fight. We had a back and forth war between, I don't want to say an old vet, but between a veteran and a young up-and-comer, and they were slugging it out. This was an incredible fight. Ultimately, Rongzhu got the nod, and he should have. He had the more powerful shots and the cleaner shots. But what was incredible to see was Kody Steele is an absolute dog. He would get dropped. He would scramble. At one point, he had an ankle lock, a heel hook. He was rotating between the two, got back up, bit down on his mouthpiece, and just bombed away. If you took 1/10 of the heart that Kody Steele has and put it in that French turd's body, Kevin Jousset would have won that fight. But no, all the heart went into Cody Steele. And good for Cody Steele. Because you know what? Cody Steele lost this fight. But he gained a whole lot of fans. He gained a whole lot of respect. Hopefully he gained a whole lot of money because this was, if not the most exciting fight on the card, the second most exciting fight on the card. And a lot of it had to do with, obviously, Rongzhu's incredible power, but also Cody Steele's just refusal to quit, refusal to accept the circumstances. Oh, this guy hits like a freight train and I got dropped. I don't care. I'm going to keep coming forward. I'm going to keep trying to make something happen. I'm fighting for my life. This is my dream. I'm going to do something about it. Cody Steele looked incredible. Rongzhu, obviously the better fighter. And that was experience, that was power, and that was composure. And that'll come with Cody. Cody has all the raw fundamentals. That'll come. I mean, he has 8 professional fights. What was the example used before? Cody has only ever been to work 8 times. Meanwhile, Rongzhu, 32 times. Great fight. Absolutely loved it. Both these guys, hopefully there was a fight of the night bonus on both sides because this is what you want to see. People fighting for their money. Then we had Topuria. Aleksandre Topuria did exactly what we thought he would do. He was a decent favorite, and he should be a decent favorite, and he looked like he should have been a decent favorite. He basically beat Colby Thicknesse up everywhere. Just everywhere. He tossed him, literally suplexed him. And thank God, because we had the bet. We bet over a half of a takedown, and that was the one and only attempt and one and only takedown in the fight was an insane suplex. So that was nice to see. He had the better striking. He had the better wrestling. Colby is, congratulations for stepping up on short notice, but he's kind of a lanky, skinny dude that really wanted a jiu-jitsu match. And even if he got a jiu-jitsu match, it wasn't going to matter because Topuria is a better wrestler. He's got good hips. He's got power in his hands, all the things. Topuria ran through Colby. Now, does this mean Colby's not UFC caliber? Honestly, we don't know. This is his first loss, his first fight in the UFC. We don't know. Because we also don't know how good Topuria is. Maybe he can beat Colby and nobody else, or maybe he runs on to look like his brother. We don't know. But Topuria looked absolutely fantastic. Colby stepped up on short notice. That should be a factor, obviously. But the fight style is what I think is going to be limiting for him in the future. Relying very much on being long and lanky and getting fights to the ground. And anytime he's going to fight somebody that has good jiu-jitsu defense, decent power in the hands, it could be kind of a trouble. He fought, though. He's got some heart. He's not a quitter. He moves forward. He does everything that you want somebody to do. I do think there could potentially be, I don't want to say a skill set limitation, because A, you could always develop your skills, and B, Colby's not, he can do all the things. He just didn't seem that athletic. And that might be because Topuria looked very athletic. The suplex was smooth. The power was smooth. The footwork was great. So maybe that was what it was, right? We're seeing a regular athlete versus a much more athletic guy, and it looked off. But overall, Aleksandre Topuria looked absolutely fantastic. There was not a doubt in my mind. Should have made him the damn safety parlay. Then we had Cong Wang looking absolutely fantastic as well. This was an annoying situation because I sat in this very chair, broke down this very card, and I said, do not bet on Bruna Brasil. She is not going to win this fight. Cong Wang is going to win this fight. I don't want to hear you people yelling and screaming, talking about I had a 39-leg parlay and Bruna Brasil blew it. I know people loved Bruna Brasil this week, and I knew what it was, right? It was Cong Wang got finished in her last fight. She's a fraud. And then you take that, you add it to, oh, Bruna Brasil's at Fighting Nerds. She's at Fighting Nerds. Who cares? Who cares? Your team can't fight for you. They can't. Your camp cannot fight for you. They just cannot. And great, she's at Fighting Nerds. Great. What other women around her weight are at Fighting Nerds? The problem with these like rise and falls of different camps is the rise is always incredible. But the rise always comes from a core group of like 4 or 5 people that start the gym together. And then as they grow, outsiders pop in, and then it dilutes the whole thing, and then that core group sort of disbands, and it is what it is. And I know Bruna Brasil has been at Fighting Nerds almost since the jump. But if she's been there since the jump, and the only person she beat that was worth anything was Molly McCann, why did everybody think she was going to win this fight? Now, I fell into the trap a little bit. I bet on Bruna Brasil to win one single round. I thought she could win a round. I didn't think Cong Wang was going to dismantle her the way that she did. I knew Cong Wang would win, right? She was the pick. I thought what was going to happen is after Cong Wang lost the way she did, she'd be a little more tentative. And I thought, because Fighting Nerds has a couple of good coaches and Kyle Barallo is obviously a high IQ guy, I didn't think necessarily that Bruna is all of a sudden going to be this spectacular fighter. I did think they'd have a much better game plan. I assumed that high IQ Caio Borralho and the rest of the coaches would have had a better game plan for Bruna Brasil than, hey, why don't you strike the very accomplished kickboxer? That made no sense to me. If we know anything about Cong Wang, it's that she is a phenomenal kickboxer. That's her whole career. Her whole career is being an unbelievable kickboxer who beat Valentina Shevchenko in kickboxing, then came over to MMA and started beating the shit out of people there too. And yes, in her last fight, she got dropped and then choked, but it was pretty obvious that she was doing really well in that fight, kind of got caught by also another good kickboxer. So for Bruna Brasil to come out here and basically only strike, she attempted one or two real half-ass takedowns. For her to really only strike here was a bit surprising. So I thought, that's a Chael Sonnen impression, I thought Bruna Brasil would close the distance, would kind of hold Cong against the cage and really make this boring, but she didn't. She played exactly into what Cong wanted to do. Cong never had to worry about takedowns, and this is actually a picture of her getting her own takedown. Literally slams Bruna Brasil to the ground. They got mixed up. They both entered the pocket at the same time, and Cong Wang was like, boom, slams her to the ground, didn't give a shit, stood back up, boxed her on the feet. Cong Wang looked phenomenal. She looked great. The line represented that. It obviously tightened. She was like a 5-1 favorite. I think she went down to a 2.5 or 3-1 favorite. Cong Wang looked good. I thought she would look good. I did also think that Bruna could steal around. Obviously, I was wrong there, but all that really means is Cong's a lot better than most of us thought, even the people like me who thought she was very good. Then we had Tom Nolan looking pretty good as well. This could have been a fight of the night. The only reason I would give fight of the night to Rongzhu and Kody Steele over this fight is because these guys both slowed down in the third, and Rongzhu and Kody Steele were just they didn't give a shit. They were just bombing away the whole 15 minutes. This was a really good fight. I had Tom Nolan win inside the distance, decision, no action, and ooh, did that look like it was going to cash a couple of times. Tom Nolan's striking looked phenomenal rounds 1 and 2. Round 3, he was gassed, he was tired, and Viacheslav is a dog. So he was able to sort of take over and march forward and box him up. But Tom Nolan looked really, really good. He looked good. The striking was there. The range was incredible. He said coming into this week, I've been grappling forever, and hopefully I'll get to show it. And he did get to show a little bit of it. He got the fight to the ground, I think, on 2 or 3 different occasions. And when the fight was on the ground, he's long as shit, and he kept using the long guy arms. He was trying to walk up a Darce. He was trying to lock up anacondas. He was trying to lock up power guillotines. He wasn't getting them. He seemed to bail on him a little too quick. I took that as he's new. He's still young. He's still figuring this out. Again, he only has 10 professional fights. He has only been to work 10 times. Only 10 times has this man stepped into a cage as a professional and gone to work. And a lot of those fights ended super quick. So while you people training and actual fight cage time are 2 different things. And I felt like the rush to, let me get an anaconda, let me get a Darce, and then, it's not quite there, forget it, let me go to something else. That just comes with experience. Because it looked like, and obviously I didn't have his arms and I couldn't feel where they were or were not. But it looked like on a couple of those Darce attempts that it's just settle your hips. You have time. Get it locked in, settle your hips, take your time, and you'll get it. Don't bail on it. He's going fucking nowhere. He's going absolutely nowhere. That's also a Boondock Saints reference. Where are you going? Fucking nowhere. Anyway, he's going nowhere. You've got the choke locked up. Settle in and work on the choke. You have multiple minutes on the clock. There is no rush here. So I do feel like that's something that will come with experience and time, and he won't rush those things in the future, but it's fine because he looked great in this fight. And it was a good fight for him. He fought a very high-level striker. He outstruck him for a good portion of the fight, and yes, he slowed down. He got touched up a little bit, ended up on his back, but it's fine because he did enough work before that it didn't matter. Viacheslav, unfortunately, I don't know where he goes from here. He's not the oldest guy in the world, but in fight years, he is pretty old. He clearly has some gaps in the grappling. His submission defense is very good. Takedown defense is pretty good, but you can't just play defense. Especially everybody knows you're a good striker and people are just going to try to work in like Tom Nolan did. And then when they're working their striking and their grappling, they have more success. Viacheslav is a dog though. He had the most amount of success when he came in Mike Tyson style inside the pocket and just boxed him up. I don't know what they're going to do with Viacheslav. I wouldn't be surprised if he got cut, even though it's not like he's on some incredibly long losing streak. But what do you do with this guy? I don't know what to do with him. But Tom Nolan, nice looking prospect. Then we had a very, very, very fun fight. This is the only other genuine candidate for fight of the night. And I don't think Weili and Tatiana was fight of the night, but Weili could certainly have performance of the night. So this was the only other true candidate for fight of the night because from bell to bell, it was a dogfight. Gabriel Santos got dropped bad by Jack Jenkins. Jack Jenkins dropped him. And the whole thing coming into this was Jack Jenkins is a decent underdog. Jack Jenkins can kick down a tree like Kung Po and kickboxer. Just chop that tree down with those legs. He's broken multiple people's legs. That's not what we had here, right? He dropped Gabriel Santos, but not with leg kicks. He hit him in the head, dropped him. And it looked, oh boy, because Gabriel Santos was a lot of people's confident favorite. And I wish he was more mine. I picked him to win. Ultimately didn't bet on him. Jakey Boy had 2 bets on him, and they cashed. Gabriel Santos looked good because he got dropped, and he composed himself almost immediately, regrouped almost immediately, turned the tables, made something happen, and then a little bit later, right, another round and a half. I think he got dropped in the first round, so 2 rounds later, round and a half later, he gets his own finish. But it's not as if he got dropped, was getting his ass kicked, and then found this choke. After getting dropped, he methodically took over and just dominated the rest of that fight. Just dominated the rest of that fight. He was doing the offensive striking damage. He was doing the grappling damage. He was doing all of the work, all of the control, making stuff happen. This was a great fight, back and forth fight. They both had success. The performance out of Gabriel Santos was very impressive. You love to see it. You think Kevin Jousset would recover from a shot like that? No, he wouldn't. He would just stand there with his hands all low. I spent my whole life doing judo and I refuse to use it in a fight. A little bit of hate. I'll get over it, guys. Don't worry. We'll sleep after this. We'll wake up. New day. Gabriel Santos looked absolutely phenomenal, and Jack Jenkins should earn a lot of people's respect in this as well because he went out there, fought his ass off, didn't quit. I guess he literally did quit because he tapped out, but you get my point. He fought his ass off, was in trouble multiple times, tried to work through it, ultimately just got beat by the better guy. Can't hate on somebody who loses to the better fighter when they gave it their all. Can't hate on him. There's always somebody better in this world. Then we had the main card opener. We had Jacob's underdog lock of the weekend, Francisco Prado. He took on Jake Matthews. Ultimately, this whole thing just came down to Jake Matthews being bigger. That's it. He was just bigger. That's why we have weight classes. And it's unfortunate. I picked Jake Matthews to win. I thought he'd be able to get it done, and he got it done. And it is unfortunate because Francisco Prado's good. He was clearly fast, clean, good entries. But as the fight went on and as he landed and it didn't really matter, and as Jake was able to sort of like lean heavy on the arms and push forward and just be bigger, as Jake was able to just be a larger human being in the cage, Francisco started to lose a little pop, lose a little sizzle, probably lost a little confidence as well. And it just sort of, went that direction. So it was a pretty clear win for Jake Matthews. He didn't look amazing in any regard. He looked very much like Jake Matthews. Decent everywhere. Not a real finisher. Can do all the things. But you don't watch it and you're like, wow, this guy's incredible. I did watch it and say, wow, he's pretty big. And that helped him quite a bit. Striking's pretty good. Wrestling's pretty good. Cardio's good. So you take all of those and you fight somebody smaller than you and you're going to look great. So ultimately, Jake Matthews got it done. Looked pretty good. And I think a lot of this had to do with just Francisco Prado being smaller. This is not his weight class. Because Jake Matthews isn't like a huge dude. Prado's got to go back down. He cannot hang here. This is not his weight class. 170. These guys are too big. And you're not that much faster than them. Like the speed difference between a 55-pounder and a 70-pounder isn't that dramatic that you can come up here and just light these people up. So he's got to go back down. Go back down. He had a takedown. And that was a bet that Jacob hit at really good plus 500. Was it plus some wild play? I don't know. Go back a few slides. It's on there. It was really good odds on that. He got a nice takedown. And then, things sort of changed from there. Then we had Jimmy Crute taking on Rodolfo Bellato. One of the terms I use on this channel is slug fight. It's also a term that seems to trigger people. It's slug fest, not slug fight. How dare you? Listen, I grew up saying slug fight. I don't know if you know this, but different people in different parts of the country grow up different ways around different humans. And they kind of say things differently. I never said y'all growing up, but all my neighbors say y'all here in Texas. So I said slug fight growing up, and I say slug fight now because I'm not a traitor to who I was. I didn't move to Texas, throw on some cowboy boots and pretend to be a good old boy. I'm Big Ange from the Northeast, and I say slug fight, and that's what this was. Slug fight is an all-encompassing term for just a sloppy, just blah, 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 rock'em sock'em robots type fight. That's what a slug fight is. A slug fest is a different term. Slug fight is not an alternative to slugfest. It's different with a different meaning. Slugfest are two people that are going to bite down and fight. And they're pretty good at it. Slug fight looks like slugs fighting. Like just sloppy, sluggy bullshit. And that's exactly what we had here. Let's talk about the scoring, though, and we'll talk about the fight. First round, Jimmy Crute looked good. Jimmy Crute looked real good in the first round. He did end up in mount. And it was funny because he ended up in mount. And I don't know, I remember Bisping, DC, whoever it was like, or no, it was one of the pinned tweets that the UFC put on the screen. It said, oh, Jimmy Crute's ground and pound looked great. He didn't ground. Bellato tried some dumbass throw and fell straight backwards. And Jimmy just landed in mount. He didn't ground. He landed on top. Difference. He didn't shoot some beautiful double right up the middle. And then he just landed on top. And once he was on top, he went to work. I mean, Jimmy Crute's a good grappler. He went to work. Bellato had no room to move, got absolutely smoked, piece up, got his face smashed in, stood up. Jimmy Crute almost had him 99% knocked out. There was literal 1 second longer, and he probably would have finished him. The ref let it go, and as he should have, and we got out of the first round. But Jimmy Crute looked really good. That was a 10-8 round in my score. If I'm scoring it, based off the new 10-8 criteria from a few years ago, that's a 10-8 round. What else do you need the guy to do? He was in mount from the first 30 seconds, wailed on the dude, almost finished him. What else does he need to do for this to not be a 10-8? Then the second round comes out. All of a sudden, Jimmy Crute's a little slower. He's not landing as cleanly. Doesn't have that same pop and sizzle. And Rodolfo Bellato is basically just a caveman. It's fully recovered. Now he's just marching forward. The issue, though, is that while Bellato became durable and was marching forward, Jimmy Crute was slowing down. The guy hasn't fought in a year and a half, 2 years. He retired. I don't know what he was doing between his retirement and when he decided to fight on this card. He obviously looked great in the first round, but circumstances sort of helped him there when he just landed in mount. But then the second round and the third round, Jimmy Crute was slow. He was sluggish. Dude, his third round, you would have thought he just had double shoulder surgery. He could not lift his hands past his waist. Just couldn't do it. His hands were that heavy. Just could not do it. And that's where Bellato started to take over and have success. I thought this was a draw. This felt very much like a draw for me. Ultimately, that's basically what we got. One judge gave it to Jimmy. Two judges said it was a draw. That's a draw. And it felt like a draw because you had a 10-8 in the first round for Jimmy. That's effectively 2 rounds worth of points. And then Bellato scored the next 2 rounds for himself. So that's a draw. I agree with this. This is what it should have been. It sucks. It sucks when cardio is the problem. Because it was clear Jimmy's the better fighter. Rodolfo Bellato's not good. He's not good. And that was my breakdown. My breakdown was, I don't think Jimmy's very good, but I'm positive Bellato's not good. And that's what we saw. Pull somebody on top of him, got pieced up. But what Bellato is very physically fit and durable as shit. So Jimmy Crute, who's not quite as physically fit, all of a sudden, his arms got heavy. He couldn't throw with the same power, couldn't pressure the way he wanted to pressure. He's given up minutes. He let himself get taken down in the third, all because he's tired and doesn't want to push forward. And that's why you don't have your win bonus, Jimmy. That's why. Go watch Kevin Jousset. That's why he doesn't have a win bonus either, because he just accepted what was going on. This is your literal job. This is your job. This is what you get paid to do. This is what you do for a living. And he showed up not in peak physical condition. And because he was not in peak physical condition, because after the first 5 minutes of very great success. Borat. The movie references are on fire today. After having a very successful first round, he didn't have the cardio or the physical wherewithal to have that same success in the second or the third. It's not like Bellato came out in the second round and all of a sudden was good. No, Jimmy was tired because Jimmy didn't work as hard as he should have in the gym. And now Jimmy only has his show money and not his win money. The one thing that fighters can control is cardio. That is the one thing. You can't control your chin. That's just given to you by God. Your athleticism, same thing. Some people are just athletic and learn things fast enough. What you can control is how hard you work, how far you run, how hard you push yourself. You can control your cardio. Some people just have better cardio than others, but even if you have bad cardio by nature, you can make it good cardio. And Jimmy lost this fight or drew this fight. Let's put it this way. Didn't win the fight that he 100% should have won because he wasn't in good enough shape. And that sucks for him. Then we had another 5-second fight. There's only 3 finishes on this entire card. 2 of them were under, how long was this? 35 seconds. 2 of them were under 40 seconds. I mean, that was the story of this card. When you got a finish, it was a flash, and the rest of the fights were decisions. The big question here was just, I wasn't sure what did it. Because it looked like Taliesin Teixeira got Justin Tafa against the cage. He landed a huge knee, I believe it was a knee, to the gut. And that sort of folded Tafa. And that's really when he started to wince. And then he ate an elbow to the face. And then he collapsed. I know that the team and the truck and all that stuff were showing the elbow to the face like that's what did it. It actually looked like it was the knee to the gut that did it. Because even when he took the elbow, his eyes were fine. He was he was totally fine. His nose didn't explode. He got smushed in. But this dude has been a professional kickboxer for 20-something years. So it looked like it was the knee to the gut. Like the wind was knocked out of him, but he was still standing. And then the elbow happened. So then he went, boom, full down. That's what it looked like to me. I'm curious what you guys thought. If it was the gut shot, the knee to the gut, or the elbow to the face. They seem to think it was the elbow to the face. Either way, it doesn't matter. The stoppage was valid. Justin Tafa was on turtle position, just getting wailed on. Nothing was going to change there. Valid stoppage. Jury's still out on Taliesin Teixeira, as dumb as that sounds. I can't base somebody's entire skill set off 35 seconds. I wish it went a few minutes. Then we would see. But, I mean, looked good, got it done. Bet Sam had like 2.5 units on this dude, so something like that. So I'm very happy that he won. It was good for all of us that he won. Then we had the co-main event of the evening. Weili looked incredible. Obviously, Tatiana Suarez got that takedown early, and I literally was like, well, that's how this fight's going to go. She got a takedown pretty quick. That's how this fight's going to go. Oh, well, sorry, Weili. But obviously, Weili trained her ass off. You can see all the veins and the muscles in this picture. And she was able to stay composed on the ground, stay out of any trouble whatsoever, worked her way to her feet, and from that second forward, took over completely. She ended the first round on top. Second round defended all the takedowns. Third round defended all the takedowns. Fourth round defended all the takedowns. Fifth round defended all the takedowns. Somewhere, maybe it was the third, fourth round, Tatiana Suarez's knee slices wide open. Like you could probably see the bone. If they rinsed it out and just peeked in there, you could see the bone. I mean, her knee was bad. And this fight was literally just the difference between a one-trick pony, a very good trick, in Tatiana Suarez. I didn't just call Tatiana Suarez a trick. Let me just back that up real quick. One-trick pony is a phrase for somebody who's very good at one thing and one thing only. And when I said she's very good trick, I meant she's a very good wrestler. That's her one trick. I'm not calling her trick like a 90s rap song. I'm just saying she's very good at one thing. Her striking sucks. Everything sucks except wrestling. And she's very good at the wrestling. But when you're only good at one thing, your opponent only has to worry about one thing. Tatiana had to worry about strikes coming her way. Tatiana had to worry about grappling coming her way. Tatiana had to worry about getting her own grappling going. Weili, one of the best bets I had was a plus 150 bet on Weili to get more than more than a half a takedown, so more than 0 takedowns. And she got that. She got attempted one and only takedown, got one and only takedown, and it was the only time Tatiana Suarez has ever been taken down. And that was really just Weili showing off. I mean, she was winning scrambles in the second and third round. Scrambles. She should not be out scrambling Tatiana Suarez. Not at her level or credentials of wrestling, but Weili is just that good. I didn't see this and say, oh, Tatiana's a fraud. We all knew her striking sucked. We all knew that. And I just knew that her wrestling was really, really good and it would be a concern, but I'm ultimately going to pick and did pick Weili because how could you not pick the more well-rounded reigning champion who's wildly strong, very athletic, works her ass off. So that's the route we went. Jacob bet on her, Betsam bet on her. We all picked her and it looked the way it was supposed to look. But none of that analysis and none of my post-fight reaction is Tatiana sucks. None of it. She's just very good at one thing, hasn't quite developed the other things because she never needed to. This was her come to Jesus moment. This was when it probably clicked in her head like, holy shit, I need to get better at striking. This might be what happened. Because she never needed to be better at striking before, ever. And now she does. And now she knows. She is 35, so I don't know what the time's going to be left. She's had tons of random injuries. But what she did show is heart and determination. This was 5 full rounds. She could have quit when her knee was gushing blood. She could have quit when the takedowns weren't working. Her face was getting blasted in, but she didn't. And not only did she not quit, she just kept moving forward and working. And, when I ragged Kevin Jousset, I sort of ragged him for, where's your sense of urgency? You're not, do something. And Tatiana, you could kind of put in the same category because it was just more of the same. She didn't come out there windmilling, right? She just kept out everything she tried in the first round. She also tried in the second, tried in the third, tried in the fourth, tried in the fifth. And every single round got progressively less effective. The difference between a Kevin Jousset, for example, and a Tatiana only knows that one thing. That's the only thing she knows how to do. So I can't fault her for not randomly throwing wild punches when she knows she can grind forward and get takedowns because she did that in the first. Where a Kevin Jousset has judo, didn't even try. Where Tatiana tried her best thing, had success with her best thing, and was just trying to go back to that well. And ultimately, she just fought somebody better. And that's what I said in that whole rant about Kevin Jousset is there's always going to be somebody better. And if you lose fighting your ass off, then you lose fighting your ass off. It is what it is. If I sit here and I pick a safety parlay and I watch the tape and I do the research and I break it down and I make the pick and it misses, it is what it is. I did everything I could do to get there. And that's the same with Tatiana did everything she could do. She wasn't going to become a kickboxer overnight. It's not realistic to expect her striking to improve. And like I said, it never needed to be good. And now she knows that it does. So if she comes out next fight with 0 improvements, all right, well, that's a problem. But round to round, it is what it is. Then we had the main event of the evening. Honestly, guys, you guys are going to fucking hate this take. Every single time I film one of these recap videos, there's always like one thing I say that a giant chunk of people latch onto, right? It's usually how I felt the decision went. Like last week, I said I thought Hamdi won that fight. And that was word vomit from everybody. No, he didn't. You're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. That's going to happen right now. When I say, I honestly, Sean Strickland's just not that good, and he never was that good. Sean Strickland just had lightning in a bottle a few fights in a row. He beat Abus. I believe that was short notice on one side or the other, I forget. Then he beats Adesanya. And that was a huge win. And he dropped Adesanya. So don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to take anything away from that, but we also found out right after that fight that Adesanya had been arrested like 2 weeks earlier, ticketed for drunk driving. And then Adesanya took time off. He's like long reigning champ. He didn't take Sean Strickland seriously. And so it is what it is. Then he came out, fought Dricus the first time, and he did kind of fight, but he lost that fight. Then he fought Paulo Costa, did nothing. He did nothing. And then he fought Dricus just now, and he did nothing. Sean Strickland didn't fight. Dude, he would, every now and then you'd get like a looping shot and a looping shot. And people would be like, ah. That was, dude, he did nothing. And the same speech I did for Kevin Jousset applies to Sean Strickland. The same speech applies. The difference is I could hear Sean Strickland's coaches, and they were furious. Sean, come on. Sean, I need you to do this. Sean, you have to do this. Sean, don't give him this. Sean. And did he make any adjustments? I would love if you guys could point out any meaningful adjustment. Don't give me, well, yeah, he threw one overhand right in a 5-minute round. No. It was the same shit. But, bop. Ooh, this elbow's here. Bop, bop. Ooh, bop, bop. That's it. That's all it was. The whole fight. And that's every Sean Strickland fight. I don't understand the lack of adjustments. You're losing the fight. And Sean Strickland is very clearly a mentally strong person. And I know that's counter to some of his random breakdowns and outbursts, but this man's nose was shattered or completely whatever. And he put it back in place. He messed with it, put it back in place, and then didn't touch it again, continued to move forward, continued to fight. That is mental toughness and physical toughness. So I'm not calling into question any of those things. What I am calling into question is his decision-making. I don't understand the lack of adjustments. Dricus didn't even wrestle. He shot one takedown. That's it. He didn't even wrestle. So it's not like Sean was frozen by, am I defending a takedown? Am I sure? What am I going to do here? And that could happen if somebody's shooting takedowns, bombing, shooting, bombing, marching forward. There's so much going on. You're trying to make your decisions. It's a pain. That's not what happened. It was a striking match. And Sean Strickland lost 2 weeks ago. Sean was like, Dricus, promise me you won't shoot any takedowns. Fight me like a man. That's basically what he got. And he lost, very clearly lost. So I just don't understand what the hell is going on with Sean Strickland. I also feel like he's starting to buy into his own persona. Because Sean didn't start as a persona. All that wacky shit he said, he believed. And it was very sincere and real to him. And then he got really popular and became the world champion. And like all of a sudden, he definitely shows up to press conferences specifically to cause some trauma and go viral. That is why he's at the press conference. He already has crazy shit he knows he's going to say. That's why now when he says his ridiculous shit, it's more of a lecture. Listen, guys. And he's like all comfortable. Because it's not just off the top of his head. It's like, let me just say some wild shit and they'll love it. And that's all well and good. Sell yourself. Sean Strickland's not a very exciting fighter. And here he is making a ton of money. Huge fan base. Seemingly a very good guy. I'm not shitting on his personality. But it does seem like he peaked fighting-wise. I've seen zero improvements in 2 years in Sean Strickland. Zero. The best performance he ever had is when he finished the boost. That was the best performance he ever had. Because I don't even think the Izzy performance was the best he ever had. He literally finished a boost. That was the best performance he had. Then he dropped Izzy. And after he dropped Izzy, Izzy had cobwebs, so he just moved forward, put on a ton of volume. And obviously he looked great, and that was a good performance. But the circumstances were Izzy was dropped ahead of time, so never fully recovered in that fight. And since then, that's all we've gotten is teep. So I don't know what we do. Also, Dricus is winning fights. He's winning fights. He's a cardio beast. He's unbelievably mentally strong, unbelievably physically strong, moves forward, willing to fight, very intelligent guy. Dricus now has what? Earned the belt and defended it twice. The problem for him, this weight class is kind of weak, other than Khamzat. I think Khamzat takes Dricus down and Dricus is kind of screwed, or Dricus can weather an early storm and just cardio beast his way through Khamzat, almost the way that Kamaru did, if Kamaru had 5 rounds. So it'll be interesting to see what they do next. I do want to see Khamzat versus Dricus. I'll be rooting for Dricus in that fight. For the only reason, I just feel like if Khamzat won that belt, we're going to end up with some John Jones bullshit where he's not going to fight for a year or 2 years. Then we got an interim. I don't want any of that crap. When Izzy was champ, that guy was fighting every couple of months, and that was amazing as a fan. I want that. Overall, this card was decent. It wasn't spectacular. It was a decent card. Hats off to Weili for making that co-main event a ton of fun. Hats off to Gabriel Santos. Hats off to Tom Nolan. Hats off to the people who showed up, moved forward, and fought their asses off. And I hope somebody pisses in Kevin Jousset's cereal. Guys, if you want to be a premium member, become one. We have not just copy-paste bets. That's the easiest thing. That's the baseline of what we have. Here's some copy-paste bets. This is what I did with my money. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. What we have is tools, insight, information. We literally spend a ton of money developing tools. And then after we spend all of that money and release the tool to you, we don't raise the price. We don't touch the price. Because while you might think I'm greedy because of the sales pitch, what I'm really trying to do is build the greatest, value that has ever existed. Build something so wild for $10 that from now to eternity, if anybody ever tries to sell anything in this space, in the fantasy space, in the betting space, in MMA in general, we are the bar. And it's like, dude, premium is friggin' $10. You're going to go pay $300 for the Saber Sim simulator when they built their own at We Want Picks and it's $10? And that $10 is for an entire month. Here's a look at the next 4 fight cards. Next week is Jared Cannonier versus Gregory Rodriguez. After that, we do have a little switcherino. Actually, sorry, no. After that is UFC Seattle with Henry Cejudo. After that, we have a switcherino. Manel Kopp will now be fighting Asu Almabayev. And then we have UFC 313. If you want to unlock all of it, I flipped the website before I recorded this video. All the picks for next week are already up. The bets go up as we place them. Everything we do is inside the app, including the data analyzer, including the raw notes, including the line movement tracker. Every single thing we do is available in the app or on the website. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member. I appreciate you. Hopefully you had a little more fun watching these fights than I did. And good luck next weekend, because we'll be back here doing exactly this every single